Okay, welcome to Elements of Youth. Learn what mineral deficiencies cause annoying things like memory loss, joint pain, low energy, and saggy skin, and what you can eat or supplement to support your health. Okay, so the agenda for today, we're going to do an introduction. So I'm just going to introduce you to me and what my credentials are. Then we're going to go over what causes demineralization, the top 4 signs of aging, which I've already listed, hydration and how to choose produce, herbal infusions and the green drink. I'm going to show you how to make them. I'm going to teach you because I don't have all the supplies. I have some of the supplies, but when we get to that, we'll get to that. Cell salts, which I also have. These, and then how to choose supplements, and then if you have any questions. I've got a list over here of Nature Sunshine products that are combos, and that then you can take a picture of. Another person that I was talking to looked up a Nature Sunshine product and then went to another store and found something similar. So it's just it gives you a good baseline of something to go off of like, what are you looking for? Right. All right, and then if you have any questions. So again, if you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to ask them, or if you have like what you feel like is a valid point to add, just great. So that's me. My name is Jessica Davis. Sometimes I go by Jessica Gooden. I have to read through this list because I forget because it's so long. I'm a licensed massage therapist. I have been since 2018. I'm a Clarity breathwork practitioner, which is a specific style of breathwork used for trauma healing and amongst a million other different benefits. We go over breath shortly when we get to oxygen, but I'm also a 500-hour advanced yoga teacher, which is a fancy way of saying I've done a lot of yoga. I'm an upledger craniosacral practitioner. I've taken level 1 and 2, which means I can basically help optimize all the cranial bones in the skull, as well as the spinal vertebrae, the sacrum, and then help rebalance cerebrospinal fluid. So I've got a lot of fancy. I always joke around. I'm like, these are really expensive hands.
Yeah.
I'm a director of marketing, and I have a BFA in graphic design, which again, really expensive hands. So just as a baseline, aging is demineralization, and we'll get more into that, but just keep that as a foundation of like anything that people normally associate with aging is usually caused by a mineral deficiency or toxicity, but today we're only going to talk about demineralization. What causes demineralization? Causes of demineralization: nutrient-poor diet, chronic dehydration, which if you're dehydrated, then the body has to use other things to keep you going. And so it'll pull on mineral reserves rather than using the stuff that you put into it. Poor digestion, that can mean anything from constipation, weak stomach acid, parasites, poor liver and gallbladder health, low functioning pancreas, which produces most of your enzymes. Stress, which can be literally anything. So that can be emotional, physical, mental, spiritual. So a lot of times when people think of stress, it's usually like, oh, I've been working really hard. But it can be emotional stuff too, like you went through a divorce, a really bad breakup, somebody died, you are having stress at work, mental, thinking about anything, overthinking anything. And And spiritual, if you don't feel connected to something greater than you or have a community that you're connected to, you're not getting out in nature enough, that can all cause stress. This one's my favorite one. Thought patterns. So we'll get into this more, but whenever you're thinking about specific things or maybe even ruminating, it uses specific minerals and other nutrients to facilitate that thought pattern in order to create the nerve impulses. So if you're constantly thinking the same thing over and over again, then you're depleting those nutrients. High sugar consumption, it's a negative deposit into your nutritional bank account. It takes more things to digest sugar than it puts into you. Acidic foods and beverages, so coffees, sodas, beer, this can all pull nutrients because the body needs to maintain an alkaline pH. So it'll pull minerals from different areas in order to neutralize the pH. Medications and drugs, which we'll get to when we get into supplementation. Different medications and drugs use different minerals and nutrients to work. And if you take the same drug for like, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, then you can look it up on the internet. They usually have a list of like, okay, I'm taking this medication. What nutrients does this deplete? And it'll give you a list of like, oh, it's vitamin C, zinc. Like it'll make a list for you, and you might want to consider adding those in, or foods that will counterbalance that. Hormonal imbalances, usually caused by stress, but can also be caused by other things. Smoking and alcohol use, lack of physical activity, and not enough sunlight. Funnily enough, which, I don't know, I have mixed feelings about the not enough sunlight, because there are some people, like they're literally cave people that just like live underground and they still seem to function just fine. So I guess for us, typical Westerners, not enough sunlight can actually cause our body not to digest the food properly, which is, I think, is interesting.
Yeah.
It has something to do with the sunlight going through the eyes and interacting with the pituitary and pineal glands, and how the hormonal secretions operate throughout the day. So like if you're not getting enough sunlight, then you're not having the proper secretions at the right time in order to facilitate proper digestion. That's my understanding of it anyway. Top 4 signs of aging and their element deficiencies. So I'm going to go over it and talk about we'll go over each of the top 4. Okay. I'll go over the mineral deficiencies or element deficiencies, and then I'll go over these elements again. There's quite a few of them, so if there's one that you notice in particular, just go ahead and take a picture, but then I can also send you the slides as well, so you don't have to frantically take notes. So memory loss is the first one. That's usually what people think of, especially with like Alzheimer's and dementia. But it includes symptoms like forgetting recent events, struggling to recall names or words, misplacing items frequently, experiencing confusion, or difficulty performing familiar tasks. Silicone is, so I'm going to list the element and then one of its major functions. Okay. So silicon carries nerve impulses, and then I go a little bit more into depth. Silicon does some other things that we'll get back to. So silicon is like a big element in the body. Phosphorus, it vitalizes and regenerates nerves. Manganese protects from mental derangement. We'll find out more in a little bit. Sulfur, which promotes neurotransmitter health. Fluorine facilitates memory, and calcium, which is essential for proper neurotransmitters. Painful joints. And this is characterized by swelling, stiffness, reduced range of motion, and persistent aching or sharp pain in the affected area. Not only are painful joints just like annoying and frustrating, but it constantly is like degrading on you, which I think kind of can go into the memory loss situation because you're just focusing so much energy and your attention on these aching joints. And it can make you irritable and easily frustrated, and then you snap at people. So it just kind of like, for people who have never had that, they don't quite understand why when you get older, you get crankier. Well, like if you're constantly in pain, of course you're going to get crankier. Like it just makes sense. So sodium is a big one. Sodium gets stored in the synovial joints. So that's the synovial fluid of the joints. So that's like the little cushion. And when our pH gets low, the first place the body will pull the sodium from is from our joints. So that's why, you get dehydrated and the first thing you notice is like, oh, my joints are stiff. It's because your body's pulling the sodium out of them. So another thing, sodium keeps calcium in solution and prevents joint stiffness and soreness, again, from keeping you at a good level. Oxygen is another great one, and calcium, which I'll get a little bit more into those once we get to the next range. Low energy, this is the one that you're like, yes, I understand. So low energy manifests as persistent fatigue, difficulty concentrating, lack of motivation, physical weakness, and feeling tired even after adequate rest. Like, I was sleeping, I was super sick. I was sleeping for like, I don't know, 14 hours some days, and it still didn't feel like it was enough. So there's quite a few here. There's so many that I just lumped them together at the bottom. So nitrogen, which is essential for metabolism. It balances oxygen and it comes from proteins. It's a primary source. Magnesium. Magnesium is involved in pretty much all of the metabolic functions. There's 5 different types. Actually, there's more than 5 different types, but my book only mentioned 5. I want to say there's like 8 at least.
Types of magnesium.
So it's usually magnesium. There's magnesium citrate, there's magnesium sulfate, there's magnesium threonate, there's a bunch of different compounds that magnesium can be with. It's great to move the digestion, which is one of the reasons that you can have low energy, because if you're full of crap, you're going to feel like crap. Things that just make sense. Oh, I feel like crap. Well, have you pooped today? Have you pooped this week?
Yeah, could be the issue. You are full.
Yeah, these are good things to think about. Silicon, again, which carries nerve impulses, and potassium. Potassium is one of the big ones that is like, oh, you're dehydrated. You want to make sure that you like eat a banana and like boost your potassium. If you have good potassium, you can have a greater supply of oxygen, higher blood alkalinity, and stronger muscular system and body overall. So potassium is really good. And when we get into the hydration portion, you'll see how sodium is outside of the cell. So it's mostly like a sodium solution outside the cell. It's the body, you're just a walking ocean.
Right.
So you've got sodium in the extracellular matrix, and then inside the cell is potassium in solution. So that's why potassium is so important, because it helps maintain our cell shape, and it keeps the two areas separate. And then sodium, I think, has a negative. Now they both have a positive charge, but there's a lot of different things going on here. We're not going to get into in this class. You're welcome. But potassium is super important for hydration and pretty much everything. So magnesium and potassium are like two biggies, and then also sodium. Phosphorus, which we've already mentioned phosphorus a couple times, and we've also mentioned silicone a couple times. So phosphorus, excessive use of brain weakens general physical strength. Some of you are always thinking, and you're like, oh my goodness, I feel so tired. But you've been thinking, and that takes a lot of energy and nutrients too. And then bonus points to iron, fluorine, and iodine, which we'll get into when we go over the specific elements. All right. And then last but not least, so there are four major ones. There's saggy skin, and I added wrinkles in there because usually they go hand in hand.
Right.
So silicone, the big one. I think we mentioned that in all four. Silicone is most old age complaints are lessened with silicone, which inhibits the aging process, even though our silicone levels decrease with age. They're highest in the hair, skin, fingernails, and toenails, and then in animals, they're in the feathers. So they give hardness, firmness, elasticity, sheen, resilience, smoothness, and polish to these areas, as well as to the bones, teeth, and tendons. So there's silicone all over the body and basically in all the things that make you look so beautiful. And then sulfur. Sulfur is necessary to produce for collagen production, along with iron and fluorine. It's a beauty ambassador and youth promoter. And I'll get more into that when we get into more in depth with sulfur. And so I'll say what the element is, and then I'll say what some common foods are that include this. And then last but not least is our sodium again, another hero. So honestly, I don't know why that one ended up under saggy skin and wrinkles, but it says stomach problems equal joint problems. So usually, so it helps whenever there is a deficiency in hydrochloric acid, which is stomach acid. So if there's not enough sodium, then your stomach acid is going to be lower. And then you're not going to digest your food as well. Mm-hmm. So then you're going to feel like crap. You're not going to be able to absorb the nutrients as well. And so you might end up with certain levels of malnutrition just because your body's not able to process what you're ingesting in the best way. Most optimal way. All right. Calcium, the knitter. So basically, the way my instructor always said this, she's like, they're all holding hands. You know, all the elements in the body are just like walking around hand in hand. So calcium is a big one that she was basically saying like, it creates like a matrix. And then, because I feel like calcium is it's a bigger mineral. So it creates this matrix, and then the other little elements can kind of cleave to it. And so it creates this nice little web for other things to stick to. And then this is more complex than what we're going to get into today, but I'll let you look at it.
Wow.
So basically, all of the different initials represent a different atomic name for the element. And then the arrows, if it's going towards, a line going towards, but then with an arrow going towards, means it helps absorb this, or it increases the uptake of this element. And if it's got an arrow going down, then it decreases the absorption of this element. So some minerals, like they just help balance and counteract each other. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to take, like if you're taking a specific supplement, like for example, I know someone who's taking zinc, calcium, and iron. Anyway, it's a trio, but it's basically only got those three elements in that. So if you're only taking that, not doing anything else, but you're always taking that consistently, you might, in the long term, end up depleting another one of your other elements. So calcium is the knitter, and sugar is the #1 leacher. So you got your beautiful soda pop that's going to just not good all around. There's a reason why they say that soda makes your bones weaken. It's because it pulls out the calcium. Not one from the sugar, but then there's something about the acid in there. I'm sure there's a more complex chemical reaction that I don't really know about, but on top of like pulling the sodium to neutralize, if there's not enough sodium, it'll pull calcium. And I think that that's the real reason why so many people have osteoporosis is actually because of a high acidic diet and not enough sodium, not enough bioavailable sodium in their diet. So you'll notice some of these a lot. So green leafy vegetables and beans keep coming up again and again and again. So like if you really, and I just recommend like picking something you like. So nettle is great as a tea. You just soak it up, which I'll teach you in the herbal infusion portion, but you just soak it overnight and then it just pulls out all these different minerals. It's really great for rebuilding bones, as well as just re-upping the mineral supply. And you could get that online. It's just, you just get a nettle herb. Valerian root, that's usually in a capsule, but I think they also have it in teas. Peanuts, bok choy, our beans, we got black, navy, green, and string. There's more beans than that, but I just picked the ones that most people eat. Right. And then some spices, which are basil, marjoram, and thyme. So if you really don't want to eat any of these foods, just start adding in spices. Like you'll still be getting different nutrients from eating the different spices. So, and it's not just one. Even though it says like, oh, it's highest in this, like they have a whole complex of nutrients and beyond what I've listed here. So fluorine is the decay-resistant element that prevents oxidative stress, which is a major aging factor. When we breathe, how beautiful, we oxidize and essentially regress. But you can also get oxidative stress just from stress, which is why antioxidants are such a thing. But it's a beauty and youth element. One of the cool things about fluorine is that fluorine and chlorine both, they kind of act as like cleaners internally, so they'll like clean out viruses and other stuff, other toxins, and help wash out the system and keep it clean. So again, we've got our green leafy veggies. Spices, we've got parsley, dill, and allspice. We've got our beans again, black, navy, green, and string. We've got cauliflower and cabbage, which, if you think about it, you kind of got an idea of like, okay, calcium-rich foods that they told us are like cheese and dairy. With fluorine, you kind of know with like cabbage and cauliflower and the green peppers, they've all kind of got like a similar flavor to them. So anything that's going to have that flavor, it's from the minerals that's in it. And if it doesn't have any minerals and it's bland and tasteless, well, it's because the mineral content of the soil that it grew in was depleted. So, all right, iodine. This is the metabolizer. So these are all the names. Metabolism is increased by iodine. Also supports hormone balance, and an imbalance can cause cataracts. Iodine is a big one. That's the one where it's like one of the top 4 that most people are deficient in. It's like usually iodine, sodium, iron, and I forget what the last one is. But it's needed for your metabolism because your thyroid controls metabolism. And so if you're low on iodine, which is primarily used by the thyroid, then of course your metabolism is going to suffer. And then your thyroid as well controls all the other hormones. Why can't I think of the glands? So if your iodine is out of balance and then the thyroid's not functioning, then your other glands are going to suffer. So everything else is going to suffer, and your body's just going to like, I don't know what to do.
Must be Mars problem.
Well, I mean,
She has no thyroid, right?
yeah. So we have someone that we know that they had hyperthyroidism, so they had to get that surgically removed, and now their adrenals have been affected, and so I'm assuming that the other glands as well, which includes like the liver and the well, she told me the pancreas as well, but the ovaries, and then I'm assuming like probably her pituitary and pineal. I think it's all just like. And just because someone doesn't have a thyroid doesn't mean that they don't need iodine still. The body still needs it to function. And you may as well just like think of it like, okay, I've got an energetic thyroid there. So you just support it like you would a thyroid. All right, so the imbalance can cause cataracts because it causes calcium to go out of solution, and that film in the eye is actually calcium. Which you can see if you come to that iridology class, I'll talk to you about it. It's called not a screw frame, it's called an arcus. When someone has the, like it looks like a filmy white thing that starts at the top and then it goes down. That's iodine deficiency, not enough natural salt in their diet. So the calcium is coming out in the eye and creating the film. So different things, your sea veggies, so kelp, dulse, and seaweed, fish, obviously sea fish, not freshwater fish. The Ceylon cinnamon, which when I was reading this, there's also other types of cinnamon too that you can eat. Pineapples and mangoes, oats, and spinach. But be careful with spinach. Also be careful with oats. Buy organic oats because they get really high in glyphosate, which is Roundup, and then that will mess up your gut microbiome. Yes. Which I get into that when we get into the produce, like which ones are like good. Buy those organic, and then there's ones that it's okay to not buy inorganic. So inorganic, non-organic. And then spinach, just be careful with spinach because it's high in oxalates, which can end up, if you eat too much of it, it can actually pull nutrients out of your body. So like, I tell people to try to eat no more than like 1 to 2, maybe 2 to 3 servings of spinach a week, because otherwise you're just depleting the body of other nutrients. Iron, also known as the frisky horse. For obvious reasons. I mean, it helps carry oxygen through the body, and it can also help soften the liver and detox the blood. So if you have good iron, usually you have a lot of energy because you've got a lot of oxygen moving through the body, and oxygen is used for creating energy and respiration, which is, creating energy. So chlorophyll is a great iron. You can take liquid chlorophyll, or you can eat your green leafy vegetables. It's unsulfured blackstrap molasses also has a high amount of iron in it. but you're gonna wanna eat at least a tablespoon of it, not like a couple drops, like a full tablespoon. You
I haven't had much molasses in a long time. I'm not even sure I like it.
I don't love it, but I put it in my smoothies, like my fruit smoothies.
Uh-huh.
And it's a good way to get some iron. Or I put it in my herbal infusions as a sweetener. And that's very nice. So your red meats, your liver and organ meats, most people know that.
Right.
Black cherries as well. And then your beans again. So black, navy, green, and string. So if you don't like the beans, you can eat the green beans. And that also includes French, which I didn't write down, but I was just going to speak to it because otherwise it was just going to be too far to the edge. And flax seeds too. Flax seeds are really good for digestion. They're a good source of fiber. And they're just really easy. You just chuck a tablespoon in something. I was telling someone the other day, like, you just grind them up and chuck them in your chocolate chip cookies or your brownie batter. And then you, like,
Might go do that.
yeah, like they've already got them browned in the store for you. Just like add like 1-to-1 ratio of it. They might not be as fluffy, but you know, sometimes nutrition, but also
That could be a big problem because I eat very little red meat, liver, and organ meat's fine anymore. So
oh, I don't eat any of those.
I do eat green leafy vegetables though. So
Yeah, so those are good. I don't really eat a lot of beans, but I just bought some French green beans. I cooked them. Those are amazing. I do love flax seeds. And I was considering getting some chlorophyll. I haven't tried it yet. You know me. Want to try anything? All right, magnesium. This one is huge. Oh, this is the other one that most people are deficient in out of those 4. And it's the relaxer. So if you're super stressed out all the time and sleep, you might be deficient in magnesium. I, for some reason, am opposite. If I take magnesium before I go to sleep, I am wired, which means that you're deficient in calcium. So that's why valerian root is good. So
all about balance.
yes. So magnesium. It's the best anti-aging advice. It's the best anti-aging mineral there is. So take less calcium and more magnesium to prevent tissue hardening. Vital catalyst in every enzyme activity, especially those for energy production, and low magnesium makes nearly everything worse. Because if you're stressed out because you don't have enough magnesium, of course it's going to make it worse. So calcium, basically when your joints start getting stiff and if it's not from inflammation, it's from the tissues hardening from calcium. So calcium is great, but it needs to be balanced by other things, and it's great when it's where it needs to be, like in your bones and your teeth. When it gets out of there and it starts calcifying everything else, then it's like really not so good. So some foods, the list for magnesium of foods, it's like in everything. It was like 8 pages in my book.
Really?
Yes, there's so many foods that have magnesium. Cucumbers, green leafy vegetables, all your beans, calm, but like I'm thinking like most veggies, most fruits, most things are going to have magnesium in it because you need a ton of magnesium. Nature's not out there to like punish us and be like, oh, you have to figure out which one you need. No, like it usually has what we need in it. It's just a matter of like, do I like that? First of all, do I eat that all the time? Just like get a good variety in there. Don't eat always the same things. Although the green leafy vegetables are listed under literally everything. So as long as you buy the organic kind, it's going to have a good mineral content and it's going to be safe to eat and consume in that form. Calm is a supplement. There's one that's just magnesium, and then there's one that's magnesium less calcium. So I've taken just the magnesium and it just like made me wired. So I do the magnesium plus calcium. But they kind of balance each other out. So I'm not exactly sure. I take it and I feel great taking it. I don't feel great just taking straight magnesium, but that's just me. Just listen to your body. Your body doesn't like a particular food. Pick a different one. Manganese is the love. Manganese is lovely. So like magnesium makes you feel like relaxed, like you're at the beach. Manganese, I feel like, gives you like an internal state of calm. Like you just feel very resilient to the stressors of life. You feel a greater capacity for love and connection with other people. And I mean, it's not ridiculous. Like you're not going to go out and hug everybody. But if you have like low manganese, you're going to be like, don't want to deal with people. In fact, I hate people. And low manganese is usually because you inherited it from your mom. So if your mom was not a great mom and not super loving, it's highly likely that she was deficient in manganese, and therefore you are probably also deficient in manganese too. I'm saying this from experience. I love you, Mom, if you're watching this, but manganese. So things that are high in manganese, especially the leaf of red raspberries, cranberries, the berries, cardamom, which is such a lovely spice, it's very calming. Pineapple, a lot of people love pineapple. Pineapple is great for enzymes, and it's also great for increasing your hydrochloric acid in your stomach. Epsom salt baths or foot soaks. I don't know if that's supposed to be on there. Magnesium sulfate. Cross that one out. I don't think that's supposed to be on there. Personally, I take a manganese supplement from Pure Encapsulations. It's $10.40 for 60 from the store that I buy it from. On Amazon, it's like $12.40. Like, as far as supplements go, it's super affordable. And I don't recommend taking it for like a long period of time, but if you're really well and you take it for a short amount of time just to like pick it back up, that could be good. Red raspberry leaf tea is great for menstrual cycles. So whether you're not menstruating or you are menstruating, like, and I mean postmenopausal or premenopausal, anywhere in between, doesn't matter. Whatever you got going on down there, if it's removed, if it's still there, it's been used by multiple cultures to help regulate the female hormone cycle, because manganese is really high in all of the reproductive organs. It's high in some other organs as well, but I don't remember what they are. But definitely the reproductive organs in both males and females. So nitrogen, I think we have 20 minutes, and I'm just trying to like keep track of time and make sure that we go on the basis. So nitrogen should not have an iron picture on it, but I was having a hard time finding a picture of nitrogen. Fluorine as well. Fluorine just popped up like a crystal.
Really?
Because minerals give crystals their colors.
Okay.
And they help give us our colors. So you can tell when someone's like anemic and they look really pale. It's because they don't have any like iron, which makes their blood red.
Right, sense.
Yeah, so like, and everyone's got different coloring. So anyway, nitrogen is known as the restrainer, which sounds very dramatic. But it restrains oxygen. So oxygen is like the fire, it's gonna get everything moving. And nitrogen is more like the calm, like it's the silence, it's the peace. and it's essential for metabolism. So I didn't list it on here because I listed it earlier, but proteins. All your proteins are going to have nitrogen in it. It's in the chemical formula for proteins. It's carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. So of the three main macronutrients of carbohydrates, fats, and proteins are the only ones with nitrogen. So your legumes, your beans, those are both proteins. They're going to have high sources of nitrogen. But also your cucumbers, your nettles, your green leafy veggies, and your cabbage. So you can see that like some of these are duplicating. Like a lot of, if you're buying good quality stuff, you're gonna hit all of your elemental, mineral. They also have vitamins and bioflavonoids and antioxidants. Like they have a full spectrum of things in them. So not just nitrogen. Oxygen is in things, but it's super reactive. It like reacts with everything. And that's because, what is it? I think it's in the halogen family. If it's not in the halogen family, it's right next to it. But it's super reactive, much like hydrogen is. That's why hydrogen and water come together, and that's why everything dissolves in water. It's because they're super reactive and they're constantly like, oh, you need an electron. Ooh, you want to give up an electron. So they're constantly like pulling and giving and bouncing around. Hence why oxidative stress is such a thing. Because if you've got oxygen, aka a free radical, floating around the body, it's just like, I'm going to steal an electron from you. I'm going to steal an electron. And it's just like going and grabbing all kinds of things and just wreaking havoc and like breaking it apart. Not good. But it is the giver of life. I guess because it's doing this. But along with chlorine, it's a resistant element. So resistant, even though it causes decay, it also resists decay. In the research that I was doing on oxygen when I was studying breath work, because I loved my training, but it was not very scientific. It was just very woo-woo. And I was like, why does breath work work? Well, you're breathing in, which supposedly increases your oxygen, but I read something else that like your oxygen levels always stay the same. I don't know what the heck's going on. What I do know what's going on. When oxygen gets into the body and floods the system, serotonin comes in. Most of your serotonin is made in your gut. Serotonin comes in and heals the oxidative damage. Well, serotonin is the element, is a neurotransmitter that allows you to feel connected to other people, to other things. So of course, if you're breathing and you're full of serotonin, you're gonna feel pretty good. You're gonna feel generally in a good mood. You're gonna feel connected to other people. So oxygen is great because I think has like a lovely side effect. It'll flood the body with some serotonin. So ways that you can get some more oxygen are through breathing, or through some sunlight, and through exercise, because exercise helps you regulate your breathing.
I want to do.
Yeah. That's what I'm working on. Phosphorus is the light bearer. I love this one because when she was talking about it, I just felt like I had a light bulb go off. But like that's what phosphorus is. Like in lightning bugs, that's what makes their butt light up. So this is necessary for nerve impulses. It's that spark that like makes the nerve impulses go. So it's really high in beets. Beets was #1 on the list. I don't know how many parts per million it was, but it had to be a lot to be #1 because the phosphorus list was also like 8 pages. There's a lot of things that have phosphorus in it. Obviously, because nature wants us to think.
Yeah.
Flaxseed as well. Horsetail is an herb. It can come in tincture form, or you can make an herbal infusion with it. I have no idea what it tastes like. I usually take it in tincture. It tastes terrible, but it's really good for you. So sometimes the medicine doesn't taste for you. I try to find the stuff that tastes the best we can. You got your beans again. You've got your green leafy veggies, and hey, we're adding in 1 egg. But we'll get back to eggs in a minute. But because they have, eggs are high in choline, and they have essential fatty acids in them, which helps you absorb the phosphorus. The fatty acids nourish the nerves because that's what the nerves are coated in, much like what do we wrap our wires in? Like the insulators on housing wires. Okay. That's what the fatty acids do. They wrap around them to keep the nerves from burning out. Potassium. We're back to potassium. Lovely potassium is the great alkalizer. So when you tend to eat a really high acidic diet, you really want to make sure that you're getting some potassium to help calm things down. The best thing about potassium is it is the element for the heart. So each organ and gland kind of has its own primary list of minerals, which if you want, you can take a list of this too. Oh, the heart's not even on this list. Anyway, potassium is the element for the heart. And it also helps break up with congestion. So like if you're like, if it feels like really thick or you start feeling really bloated under your skin, because you've got like 60 to 70% of the lymph just underneath the skin, and the rest of it's kind of like in your guts and near the joints. Not in your guts. The potassium helps break that up. Chlorine helps clean it up, which, Clorox, think of that as a cleaner. Right. Chlorine comes in, and I didn't include chlorine in this because you're going to get a bunch of chlorine from your green leafy vegetables and peppers, which I've already included in the list. So if you're eating your green leafy vegetables, check, you're basically hitting everything you need. Obviously, then it's just like bonus points if you eat anything else other than that.
So the potato peels cracks me up.
Yeah. So if you peel the potatoes, then you're not getting enough potassium, because most of the potassium in the potatoes is just underneath the peel. Mm-hmm. But you can make like a potato peel broth, and that will help you get potassium. So apple cider vinegar, bananas, your beans again, your cucumbers. There's a lot of things that have potassium in it. I want to say avocados too. These were all foods that are high in potassium, but potassium is really good for you, especially the heart. Silicon is the magnetic element. Silicon is bringing everything together. I didn't write anything about silicon apparently, but it's involved in all kinds of things. Like we've got collagen all over the body. Mm-hmm. We've got connective tissue all over the body. There's a whole matrix of like holding us together, like moving and sliding. You need silicon for that. You need it for your hair, you need it for your nails, teeth. It's just, it's honestly, I was really shocked that oats are a really good source of silicon. Obviously, you want to buy the organic kind that's not flooded with glyphosate. Horsetail is the herb for silicon. It has so much, like of all the herbs, like it's the one for silicon.
I've never even heard of horsetail.
I never heard of it either until I took this herbalism course. Yeah, and then they're just like, we're scale 100%, we're low in silica. Nails are brittle and cracked. You want it? I'm like, oh, well, I guess I need silicone because my hair's falling out. Nettle as well, your green leafy vegetables, your beans, black beans, maybe green string. You need silicone for mood impulses, much like phosphorus. Like if you don't have it, I want to say sulfur is in there too. And well, I think sulfur is next. No, sodium is next and then sulfur. But yeah, like silicone's just like in corn, it's like the white strings that on corn of the cob, like the white strings, the silk strings are high in silicone.
Okay.
But think about it, they look like hairs.
True.
We call that the doctrine of signatures. If it looks like something, it probably helps that thing. Hence why raspberries help the ovaries.
Okay.
Like, so if it usually like if it's shaped like the organ, it's gonna help that organ system, which is helpful.
Yeah.
Sodium. Sodium is in metals. It's really high in celery, but it has to be organic celery because if you eat the inorganic celery, it doesn't have any flavor to it. And my mom's been drinking the celery juice. She says it's absolutely horrible. I don't know because I'm allergic to celery.
Oh, well, there you go. So, yeah,
so I've never had it, and until I don't have an allergy to it anymore, I'm not gonna eat it. But she said if you put like a little bit of salt in it, it does make it better. Dr. Oz swears by celery. It's great. Like it's great to clear out like staph and strep and like lingering colds and things like that. I want to say it's also high in chlorine. Green leafy vegetables, carrots, cabbage, and then Redmond's or Celtic sea salt. Although be careful with the Celtic sea salt because their seeds are like they're very toxic right now. But Redmond's, it's called a horse salt, but it's not just for horses. I mean, I eat it, and you look at it, it looks like regular salt.
There was nothing like.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Himalayan salt.
Okay.
So it looks like just like anyway, it's pink. It looks like Himalayan salt, but it's got a bunch of trace elements to it, and it's from a salt mine in Utah that's underground, so it's not exposed to any air pollution. So it's really good, and it tastes just like regular salt. Although I will say the trace minerals kind of end up creating like a sand texture sometimes. But you just eat it. It doesn't have any flavor. You just sometimes you're like you bite into like a gravy something or other. I just ship it to you.
I did parsley potatoes last night, of course, pieced out on them. And as I'm eating, I'm going, crunch, crackle. I'm not sure I like that texture.
Yeah. Sulfur is known as the heating element. So if you have cold hands and feet, you're probably low in sulfur. But sulfur is absolutely necessary for making collagen. If you don't have sulfur, you just don't have the right ingredients to make collagen. So your skin is going to be like dry and cracking. Same with silica if you're silica deficient. If you have too much sulfur, which is really common for teenagers, that big painful red acne, that's too much sulfur. So if you're low in sulfur, you're going to want to eat cabbage, nettle, green leafy vegetables, cruciferous veggies like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. Sulfur is the wonderful thing that like gives you the gas. Beans, black, navy, green, and string, and then in eggs, they're what give the yolk that bright orange and yellow color.
instead, if you were low on sulfur, it would be cold hands.
Cold hands and feet.
If you're too high in sulfur, could it be the opposite thing? Just where your body temperature runs hot, or
It depends because I don't know. Like, I don't know with menopause and like postmenopause, like, because usually menopausal women and postmenopausal women are low in calcium because they don't have estrogen to like support the calcium reuptake. So it could be from like a hormonal something. But yeah, I mean, it's worth a shot. Like, if you think, oh, I'm eating a ton of
cabbage and see if you cool off.
Yeah, like, so let me see. Sulfur on this list. There it is. There's nothing on here that zinc will decrease sulfur. Solar molybdenum, that's a trace mineral. And it looks like sulfur will decrease I don't know, something to do with calcium. So calcium and sulfur. All right, we've got 2 minutes left, so I'm gonna like zoom.
Okay.
Hydration. Intra and extracellular matrix. The bodies are composed of 60 to 75% water, which includes the fluid inside and surrounding the cells. We're essentially walking oceans, which makes good hydration of utmost importance. It's important to replenish with clean drinking water, free of contaminants like lead, chlorine, trace pharmaceuticals, etc. Chlorine and fluorine that's in water is chloride and fluoride. It's not the same as what you're getting out of the nutrients. It's a chemical versus a bioavailable nutrient. And it actually displaces the healthy stuff that's in your body. So electrolytes are necessary for cell function, like nerve impulses, muscle contractions, hydration, and pH balance. And they include sodium, potassium, chloride, calcium, magnesium, phosphate, and bicarbonate. So here's what I was talking about. The sodium is outside of the cell, and potassium is inside the cell. But the ion channels in the cell membrane use the charge of these electrolytes to transport things inside and out of the cell. And then if you put a pinch of sea salt or Redmond salt and a squeeze of lemon in your water, it'll help provide the essential trace minerals and electrolytes. So it's just like a pinch of salt and like a squeeze of lemon.
Is Redmond sea salt readily available?
I just buy it on Amazon. You can get a 5-pound bag for $20 and it lasts me for like, I eat it like crazy. So it'll last me for like 6 months. I don't know, I guess I bought it in August and I just bought, 6 to 8 months. It'll last a good while. Okay, how to choose produce. So the Environmental Working Group, also known as EWG, analyzes the latest fruit and vegetables, testing data from the Department of Agriculture and the FDA. Their 2024 guide tested data from 47,510 samples of 46 fruits and vegetables. So it's pretty comprehensive. They come out with this every year. You can also look on their website for water, what's going on in the water. So they do the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15.
Okay.
So these are the ones that you either want to buy organic, grow your own, or avoid. So that's strawberries, spinach, kale colored and mustard greens, grapes, peaches, pears, nectarines, obviously fuzzy skins, and the green leafy vegetables. apples, bell and hot peppers, cherries, blueberries, and green beans. And if you buy them in season, the cost is not like, it's probably comparable to if you're buying them out of season.
Mhm.
But I usually just buy a lot of this stuff frozen. And then you don't have to worry about it going bad. And then they're clean 15. So they were the least contaminated by pesticides. And that's your carrots, sweet potatoes, mangoes, mushrooms, watermelon, cabbage, kiwi, honeydew melon, asparagus, frozen sweet peas, papaya, which has a little asterisk, and sweet corn, which also has an asterisk. We talked about it on the next page. Onions, pineapple, and avocado. So those are safer to eat, purchase. Not apparently they're blessed by the wine. A small amount of sweet corn, papaya, and summer squash sold in the United States is produced from genetically modified seeds. Buy organic varieties of these crops if you want to avoid genetically modified produce. Highly recommend avoiding genetically modified produce. They haven't done enough research to realize how changing the DNA in that influences us, because we do absorb that.
Now, it's funny you should say that, because I was eating yogurt one day at work. No, I just happened to flip the label around, and it says, hey, contains genetically modified food in yogurt. I'm like, I won't be buying that one anymore.
It's not good for you. I did another, in my essential oils class and in my biology class, I go into it more in depth. But essentially, the cells have these cell receptors that come off that are like antennae, and they're all specifically shaped to absorb different nutrients so that the cell can use it. If you eat something that is genetically modified, it might fit into that cell receptor, but it won't fit perfectly, and so it'll just gum it up.
Okay.
And so that cell receptor is now out of commission. And until you do something to like clean it up and repair it, it's useless.
Right.
So you might not feel bad at first eating this stuff, but the more you consume it, the more cell receptors that go out of commission. So this is where we get into some fun stuff that you can do for yourself, how to make an herbal infusion and the green drink. And it's super easy. So for the herbal infusion, you want 34 ounces of clean water. You want 4 bags of tea or 4 teaspoons of loose leaf tea. Highly recommend mountain rose herbs. You can buy them in bulk, and it's like, I don't know, I think I purchased something for like $8. They were like this big of a bag.
Wow.
I bought like a rosemary that's this big. I don't even know how much it was. It was probably like $8. It was stupid because you buy those like little jars at the store,
Right.
and those are like $8.
Mm-hmm.
So, but mountain rose herbs, you can buy them in bulk because they're usually organic. So if you're gonna do an herbal infusion, I would recommend you buy them in bulk because otherwise it gets really expensive with the tea. You boil the water for at least 10 minutes. That's to get all the air bubbles out of it. Ionize the water, and then you pour the water of the tea in a heat-safe container. This is important because I have shattered 2 glass containers doing this, and it didn't like crack glass all over my kitchen, but it did make a huge mess and like spill water all over the place. And tea
everywhere.
Yes. So be cautious with glass as it may crack or explode with hot water. Stainless steel works best. And then you let it steep for at least 4 hours. Overnight is ideal, and that's so that it pulls the maximum mineral content out of it. So you can actually drink that. And then sip on it all day. Outside of meal times, either half an hour before or 2.5 hours eating, and that's what you want that to be. I used to drink
4 glasses of water, I just keep chugging.
My cousin, at one time they were stationed in Germany, and they don't drink with their meals. You know, he thought it was awful that my kids drink with their meals.
It's not good for you. I didn't realize how that was. Okay, the green drink. I'm gonna tell you like the plain version how they taught it to me. I've also put ginger, fresh ginger in this and a squeeze of lemon, and it makes it so much more palatable, especially if it's something super bitter. But it's 16 ounces of distilled water. You want distilled water because it doesn't have any minerals in it, and it will pull all the minerals out of the green leafy vegetable so that you can absorb them better. And then get a blender. So it's just a handful. You can see it's just a handful. And then 16 ounces of distilled water. And then you put it in the blender, and it does this. It pulverizes it into nothingness. I did this with lettuce, and then I was like, oh my God, it was just green. There was no pulp, no nothing. So
Wow.
if it's chunky, you can strain it. If it's consistently chunky, try a different blender, a higher speed, or a smaller handful. Because I've done it where my handful was too big, and then it was like super chunky, and I might as well have been drinking a smoothie. It's not supposed to be like that. And this, I didn't even shake up. That's just how it is.
Okay.
So if it's separating, like it's got a little bit of separation down at the bottom, but it usually won't. And if it does, it's not like thick chunks.
Right.
What about cell salts? I'm gonna go over these really quick. That's what these are. They're cell salts, they're homeopathic, and basically the way they work is they're frequency medicine. I don't know how it does it, but it does work. But it it helps you pull the minerals out of the air or out of the foods better, so you can absorb them. This one is all 12 in one. We'll get to the next list. It's named after Dr. Wilhelm Schussler, a German medical doctor in the late 1800s. When the human body is reduced to ash, there are 12 main minerals present in that ash, and these relate to 12 zodiac signs or each month. And I guess amazingly, the seasonal fruits and vegetables and herbs of that time have higher quantities of these minerals. So if you eat in season, you're getting the cell salt for that month. So these are in alphabetical order. I don't know why they did that this way. Because Calc 4 is actually, we're in cancer season right now, so and that's the cell salt for this month, but that's not the beginning of the astrological year. So I don't know who numbered these and why they numbered them this way. They are named after their alchemical names. So Kali is I don't remember Kali's full name, but it's potassium. That's why potassium is K on the periodic table.
Okay.
And then myrrh is myricum or something, and again, it's the alchemical name for chloride. So the rest of them all make sense. Like that, again, that's why sodium is Na, because it's, I don't know. But anyway, it's the alchemical name. So we've got a lot of potassiums, we've got some magnesiums, there's a lot that end in phosphate, there's a couple that end in sulfate. So if you're low on sodiums, you've got options, low on magnesium. The ferrum phos is the only one that has iron in it, and the silicate. But I did notice I noticed a huge difference. I've taken these two. Actually, I've taken these three, this one, it's just interesting, like, to notice how you feel. And each one has different things that it does, which I didn't go into. I go into that in my nutrition one and explain the benefits of each of these. So, and then this is the last portion of it. So how to choose supplements. Guidelines for supplement selection. Number one, you want to check for chelated minerals. If it's not chelated, it's not bioavailable and your body can't absorb it. So they showed us a really lovely picture of Centrum Silver just going through the body completely undigested.
Oh,
So it is 12/12. 2/12. For herb-based options, and that's so that it's more bioavailable. The plants have already broken the stuff down, so your body can absorb it better. What I was talking about earlier with the drug interactions, make sure you research. If you're taking any medications, make sure you look at things that you're not supposed to take with it. I know there's certain ones that they don't want you to take. They don't want you to eat grapefruit with because grapefruit will make you flush it out. So just if you're on any type of
it's hardly any kind of heart medication. You can't take it at all.
makes sense. The one that I know is the mood stabilizers, so your SSRIs. So many names running through my head now. So if you have anxiety, depression, or bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia, you don't want to take St. John's wort, same SAM-E, or rhodiola, because they can cause serotonin syndrome, which can kill you.
Oh,
So like,
not a good idea.
yeah, so like, and the doctors don't always know. The pharmacists are more likely to know, but just be your own advocate,
Right.
take care of yourself. Consider bioavailability and dosage. So just, they have the dosage on there. Someone said, oh, I bought this thing, but they said that one serving size was 4 capsules. I don't want to take 4 capsules.
Exactly.
So there are tons of options out there. And then look for blends that contain the full spectrum for absorption and use. So like, the more things that they have in them, usually it's like better so that you can absorb them. I don't think that, but for example, you need like vitamin C and vitamin A to absorb. I don't know that for sure. So nobody take my word for that. I'm just making this up, but you get the idea of like you need different things to help you absorb. And then verified product quality certification. So not all of them are created equal. Nature Sunshine has a very strict process that they go through, and they make sure that all their stuff is really good. And they work with other people to create specific ones. So it's very well researched. Pure Encapsulations has good quality stuff. That's why I've recommended them for the supplement. And then my dad was a doctor who took nutrition courses, was obsessed with all that stuff, and he found that Solgar or Solaray has good chelated mineral things, but not all of their products are great. So just like some Solaray is usually okay, but and Solgar as well, but just sometimes just look. And then key takeaways: eat whole foods for whole nutrition. Avoid GMOs. Obvious reasons. Supplement minimally and only as needed. They're called supplements for a reason. The main thing is more and then stay hydrated, because if you're even, I forget what the research was, but if you're even, I'm making up a number, 10% dehydrated, your mood walnuts. And of course, you're gonna look like a withered up prune because your body doesn't have any hydration in it. Okay, so last but not least, thank you for coming to my class today. I wanted to let you know that you will be receiving an email in the future asking you to verify your attendance at this class. The email will be titled, please with an E, respond. Class attendance verification for Jessica Davis's Elements of Youth. The survey is 5 questions long. It should only take a minute or 2 to complete. Your email address will only be used for the purpose of the survey and will not be shared for any other purpose. Where?
I don't know, the line above the left.
Herbsies. Do you have any questions?
No,
Lovely.
good.
Thanks for coming.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify something. Actually, a couple things. So clarify one thing and then add another thing. So on the iron, I spoke about chlorophyll, and chlorophyll is actually not rich in iron at all. I misread my notes, so I misspoke. The way that chlorophyll, and which is plant blood, is similar to heme in human blood is that they have similar chemical compositions. And for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to talk about the basic structure. I'm sure there's more to it, but I just want to clarify. So plant blood has magnesium and it's surrounded by a bunch of nitrogen. And human blood has iron, which is surrounded by a bunch of nitrogen. So really the only difference in the chemical composition between the two of them is that human blood has iron in the middle and plant blood has magnesium in the middle. So essentially the thought is that if you consume chlorophyll, then it's really easy for the body to convert it into the components that's necessary to make our own human blood. So anyway, my apologies for any confusion. The second thing that I wanted to add is that I didn't really talk about animal proteins much, but something that is really great for pretty much all the nutrients is if you get a high quality bone broth. Now, I have heard some people say, oh, I don't really like bone broth, which I get. It comes in powdered form. You don't have to just buy the liquid, and you can put that in foods. You can sprinkle it on salads. You can add it into, I was thinking like casseroles, and you could add it into dishes as like a seasoning the same way you would a bouillon or chicken stock or veggie stock or something like that. Obviously, it may or may not have the water component depending on if you get the liquid form or the powder form. So obviously, experiment or use common sense, whatever floats your boat. I'm an experimenter, so I like to try all the different things. But bone broth is really good because it's essentially pulling all the nutrients out of animal bones, and then it's dehydrating it and pulverizing it into a powder, or they're just keeping it in liquid form. So either way, it's a very digestible way to consume a lot of nutrients, as long as it's coming from well fed and fed with the right things. Obviously, you don't want to have like a GMO, an animal that was eating a bunch of GMO, genetically modified organisms, or eating a lot of things that were full of Roundup or glyphosate, because that destroys the microbiome and causes some other things. So it's just keep in mind that quality does matter in this sense. So if you're really wanting to nourish yourself, It's not like it's something that you'll want to stick with, but like medical bills can be really expensive. So if you're maybe paying a little bit more to buy a higher end product in the short term to save you larger term bills in the future and to just feel better, that's a good option. It's not something that I eat every day, but I do try to get it in where I can when I remember. So anyway, I just wanted to add those. And oh, I also forgot gelatin, which is also great. Um, so Jello, obviously, some Jello has gelatin, at least it used to. Pudding usually is made with gelatin, but it's not always. Sometimes it's just made with cornstarch. So just read the packaging and see. But that can be a fun and easy way to like get in some healthy stuff. Like, how good would it be to make some natural jello with like gelatin and then you put in like some fresh juices? And like, what a nutritious way to like, think of gummy vitamins. You're just making your own. So, anyway, just a couple of thoughts I wanted to add. And thank you so much.